Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji.
Hare
Accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, my humble obeisances to you. All glory Srila Prabhupada.
How are you, Maharaj?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please set my respectful obeisances unto your feet.
Oh, my obeisances at your feet. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll begin now. Om Jnanatamrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to our ongoing study, Bhakti Sastri, and we're studying this evening chapter number 12. We've entitled it Qualities Which Endear One to Krishna. Chapter 12, entitled Bhakti Yoga, Devotional Service. So first of all, a review of chapter 11. So the chapter began with Arjuna's request to see the universal form, and Krishna described it to him. And then we had Sanjay's description of Arjuna's vision. So we discussed about the universal form, that why Arjuna wanted to see the universal form. Prabhupada says that he wanted to establish Krishna not only philosophically and theoretically, but he wanted to establish him practically. So by having Krishna reveal the universal form, it's a challenge to the atheists and the impersonalists and those people who may deride the position of Lord Krishna. However, Srila Prabhupada describes the universal form as a godless display of opulence. The universal form is material and it's temporary. But it's very attractive to the monists, the Jnanis, the Vedantists, these kind of people. They like the idea of seeing the universe as some energy. And they think ultimately God is without any personality. So sometimes they will establish the universal form as being the form of the absolute truth. Well, it's an indirect form of the absolute truth. But it's not pleasing to the devotees. But for people who have no ability to see God in His actual divine form, then it's helpful for them to progress. The idea of the universal form is that people should be inspired to serve, to do service for the Supreme. If they're not brought to the point of engaging in service, then it's of no value. So Arjuna saw the Vishwarup, and then he was overwhelmed, and he asked Krishna, "Who are you, and what is your mission?" And Lord Krishna replies to that in text 32 up to 34, where Krishna says, "Time I am, destroyer of the world, and but for you Pandavas, I've come to claim all people, that all the Kshatriyas who'd gathered there on the field of Kurukshetra, they were all going to meet their death." And Krishna also encouraged Arjuna that he should become an instrument in the service of Lord Krishna. So the idea is it's Lord Krishna's mission that he should establish the Pandavas to rule the world, and he wants Arjuna to play a part in that. he should be the instrument. He should be instrumental in helping the Pandavas to win the battle, because when they defeat all the Kauravas, then Maharaj Yudhisthira can become the king. So after that, Arjuna offers his prayers, and we hear Arjuna offer his prayers to Lord Krishna, and he apologizes that he'd been over familiar with Krishna, and he had addressed him in ways which were not befitting and not proper, and Arjuna apologized for that. And then Arjuna also asked Lord Krishna to show his four-arm form, which Lord Krishna duly did. And after showing the four-arm form, then Arjuna showed his two-arm form. And we're told that only pure devotees are able to see Krishna's two-arm form. So that's a brief review of the main points of chapter 11. So we're hearing now the connection to the previous chapter. The Bhagavad Gita's middle set of 6 chapters began with Krishna discussing bhakti, and Arjuna wants it to end in the same way. Right? Chapter 7 began with Lord Krishna discussing bhakti, and so the final chapter of this middle section, Arjuna wants it to end in the same way. The Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3 sets of 6 chapters. The first 6 chapters were mainly about karma yoga, and so in the 7th chapter, Lord Krishna began discussing bhakti, and Arjuna wants to end it in the same way. He wants to also discuss bhakti at the end. So after witnessing Krishna's awesome universal form, Arjuna wishes to confirm his own position as a devotee who works for Krishna, as opposed to a jnani who renounces work. So Arjuna wants to confirm his own position as a devotee who works for Krishna. He's going to work, of course, he's going to fight. He's going to do his duty as a Kshatriya, to take part in the battle. Jnanis simply renounce work. They stop everything. Their process is negation. The jnanis are impersonalists, and they negate everything, negate all action, they negate all thought, everything's to be stopped. But for the devotee, it's to use everything for the service of Krishna. So at the end of the lesson, a student should be able to summarize the progression from Varnashram Dharma to perfect Krishna consciousness, which will be described in this 12th chapter in verses 8 up to 12. It's a brief section summarizing the different stages in Krishna consciousness, from Varnashram to Krishna consciousness. And then the end of the chapter, we will hear examples from Shastra of devotees possessing the qualities that endear one to Krishna, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, verses 13 to 19. And then finally we'll have an overview of chapters 7 to 12, identifying significant sections and explaining links between the chapters. Okay, overview of chapter 12. So the first section, there will be a discussion, or rather, anyway, Lord Krishna will be speaking, and he will be explaining to us how bhakti is superior to impersonalism. The chapter actually begins with a question by Arjuna. because Arjuna had heard about the universal form, and there are a class of people who consider the universal form to be supreme. And they think of the Lord in the form of the universal form. But Arjuna knows there's also the path of devotion. So he wants to know which path is better, the path of Gyan or the path of devotion. So Lord Krishna will answer that. And then we'll hear about the different stages of devotion, verses 8 to 12. And then finally we'll hear about qualities that endear one to Krishna. So it's not a very big chapter, it's a brief chapter, but there are some important points in the chapter. All right, the first section, Kshetra and Kshetragna. You know the meaning? Kshetra and Kshetragna? Kshetra means?
Field of activities.
Yes, a field, right. That's also, that will be mentioned in the 13th chapter more. So Kshetra is a field. The body is like a Kshetra, like a field. Because just like in a field, you know, according to what you plant in the field, you harvest those different fruits. If you plant melons, you will harvest melons. And if you plant beans, you will harvest beans. And so in the same way with the body, if you do good work, you'll get good results. If you do bad work, you get bad results. That's the nature of the body, and it's the nature of a field. How we use it will be manifest, how we make use of it. And then Kshetragna means, what is the meaning, Kshetragna?
Knower of the field.
Yes, the knower of the field. Who is the knower of the field?
There are two knowers, like the soul and the super soul.
Yes, right. Two knowers, the soul and the super soul. The soul knows about its own happiness and distress from the one body, but the super soul knows about everyone's happiness and distress, because the super soul is situated in all bodies. So that's the difference. All right, the first verse, someone can read?
Arjun Uvacha Evam Satat Yukta Ye Bhaktastvam Paryupasate Ye Chapet Sharma Vyaktam Tesham Ke Yog Vittamaha. Translation: Arjun inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested?
Okay, so it's Arjuna's question. Yes, and Prabhupada's purport.
Should I read, Maharaj?
Yes, please.
So factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure.
Okay. Yes.
Vishwanath Chaturvati Thakur, am I right, Maharaj?
Yes.
12.1. In the 12th chapter, the superiority of all types of devotees to the Jnanis is described, and among the devotees, those who are endowed with wonderful qualities like lack of hatred are praised. Arjun heard the great superiority of bhakti at the beginning of the topic of bhakti in the following words. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantar atmana Shraddhavan bhajteyo mam same yuktamo mataha. But I consider he who worships me with faith, with mind, attached to me, to be greater than all types of yogis. Bhagavad Gita 6.47. Arjun desiring to hear about the superiority of bhakti, even if it is in summary, asks a question. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur 12.1 continued. The devotees described as being constantly engaged worship you as Shyam Sundar mentioned at the end of the last chapter with Mat Karma Krin Mat Parmaha. Bhagavad Gita 11.155. Others worship the Brahman Akshara with no qualities. Avyakta means Nirvishesha, described in the Shrutis and statements such as Etad Va Tad Aksharam Gargi Brahman Adivedante Asthulam Ananne Aharasvam. O, O Gargi, that Akshara which is not wide, not small, not short, is called Brahman. Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 3.8.9. Among these two types of persons who know yoga, who are the best knowers of yoga, Yog Vittamaha, who know the best process for attaining you, or do they not know the process of attaining you? In a comparison involving two items, usually the form Yoga Vittara, which of the two types, how yoga better would be used? The word Yoga Vittama should be understood to suggest that among the better of the two types of knowers of yoga, Yoga Vittara, who are the best knowers of yoga, Yoga Vittama.
Okay, so then we have Arjuna's, the answer to Arjuna's question. Krishna replies, yes? Someone read text number 2.
Shri Bhagwan Vacha. Shall I read, Maharaj?
Yeah, go ahead, Mataji.
Mai avesha mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetas tema yuktatma matah. Tema yuktatma matah.
Yes, translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be the most perfect.
Okay, so Krishna gives a conclusive answer, very direct, right? Who's the best? He was asked, those who worship the impersonal feature or those who worship the personal feature? And Krishna replies, those who fix their mind on the personal form are always engaged in worshipping him, and they are considered to be the most perfect. Srila Prabhupada explains. Yes, Mataji, read.
In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one, in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi.
Yes, go on reading.
Among them, my devotees are the best, those who absorb their minds in me, Shyama Sundar, those who desire to be constantly united with me, Nitya Yukta, with faith which is beyond the gunas, Paraya, Shraddhaya. They, my Ananya Bhaktas, are the best knowers of yoga, Yuktatma. From this, it should be inferred that inferior to these Ananya Bhaktas are those having bhakti mixed with jnana, karma, or other processes, who are called yogi vittara. Thus, it's shown here that bhakti is better than gyan, and that among the types of bhakti, Ananya Bhakti is the best.
So Ananya Bhakti is the best, right? Ananya Bhakti means without any deviation. Bhakti which is very concentrated and full, complete and perfect. No gyan and no karma, none of these things are there. Not mixed devotion. All right, so Krishna answered very clearly, text number 2. And then going up to text number 5, we get the result of what happens to those who follow this impersonal path. Why are they not so dear to Krishna? So text number 5 describes. Yes, someone read?
क्लेशो अधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्त हि गतिर्दुःखं देहवद्भिरवाप्यते. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
Yes. So klesha means trouble, difficulties. And who's getting the difficulties? Those who are attached to this, the avyakta. The avyakta and the asakta. So they get the difficulties. It's very troublesome. Avyakta hi gatir dukkam, right? Not sukham, but dukkam. Always difficulty, trouble. So why? Because they're trying to attach to the unembodied, to something which we have no real experience of, which we cannot really relate to. To make, as the translation said, Lord Krishna said, it's always difficult for those who are embodied. Advancement is very troublesome because they're trying to contemplate the avyakta, the unmanifested. We are manifested, and we're trying to contemplate what is not manifested. So that makes it very difficult and makes our advancement a big problem, a lot of trouble. Prabhupada's purport, someone can read?
The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Gyan Yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now here, the difference between Gyan Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Gyan Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul.
Yes, it's easier and it's natural. So that's very important. That makes a big difference. That's the difference between Jnana Yogi, the Jnana Yogi and the Bhakti Yogi. Bhakti Yoga is very easy and it's natural. But the Jnana Yoga is not so easy. It's a big problem. So many difficulties, so much trouble. Can someone read this?
So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of the foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you. So Prabhupada explains the difficulties, why it's so difficult for the impersonal path. They have to learn the language. They have to understand the non-perceptual feelings and realize all these processes. What does a devotee have to do on the other hand? Devotee simply has to take the guidance of a spiritual master, offer obeisances to the deity, hear the glories of the Lord, take prasadam, like that, these kind of things. Quite simple and easy, frank, enjoyable. We get pleasure in these activities. But the impersonal path, it's a lot of difficulty, a lot of trouble. And they make advancement very slowly, with great difficulty. Okay? Yes? Prabhupada's purport continues.
A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifested, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifestation realization is against the nature of a spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way.
Okay, yeah. So Srila Prabhupada's explaining that you may think, well, I'll go through Jnana Yoga, and from Jnana Yoga, then I will come to Bhakti. But Srila Prabhupada explains the problem with that process. If you take that indirect process to Bhakti, of course, we know there's a verse there in the Bhagavad Gita which describes that when one is actually in knowledge, he surrenders to Krishna. So we may think like that, I'll follow Jnana Yoga now and I will come to Bhakti and we'll surrender to Krishna. But Prabhupada explains that it becomes a problem because we've become habituated to the path of Jnana, and to change our thinking, to change our mentality, suddenly to become a bhakta, to become a devotee in path of devotion, then it's difficult. It's difficult to give up the practice of impersonalism, because we were habituated to think in impersonal ways. So that's a problem. So take to the path of bhakti, it's much easier. It's direct, and you get the result easily and quickly. Okay, that was Srila Prabhupada. Now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, what he says about this verse. He said this verse describes a little of their inferior position. Those who are attracted to only Brahman avyakta sakta chetasam, who desire only realization of Brahman, undergo excessive difficulties in attaining it, because he, by what means at all can something without qualities be made manifest? That goal is attained by the jivas endowed with bodies, dehavadbi, only by undergoing suffering, dukkam. The senses have the power for particular knowledge such as sound, not for something which does not possess particular qualities. Therefore, stopping of the senses is necessary for those who desire knowledge of the impersonal without particular qualities, nirvishesha. But stopping the senses is like stopping rivers. Stopping the senses is difficult. Of course, we all have our own realizations about this, about how difficult it is to stop the senses. Certainly difficult, because we have senses, they like to be active, they need engagement, and if you try to stop the senses, that becomes quite a challenge, because we're used to acting, we're used to having engagement and activities, and to suddenly stop all that, then it becomes very challenging for our mind. We become disturbed. So continuing, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, the ocean of nescience is very difficult to cross because it is infested with many dangerous sharks. Although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross that ocean, we recommend that you simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are like boats for crossing the ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all dangers. Srimad-Bhagavatam 4.22.40. So you can see how Srimad-Bhagavatam describes that we should take shelter of the Lord. And his lotus feet are like boats. No, thank you. No. Oh, I won't take any. Tomorrow I got it. So to cross the ocean, take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna like boats. Why try to swim across the ocean? The Gyanis try to get across. There's so many sharks, so many dangers to cross the ocean. Keep yourself safe. Go on a boat, and the boat is the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Furthermore, even that goal of impersonal Brahman, which is attained by such suffering, is attained only by having a mixture with bhakti. Without bhakti to the Lord, the worshippers of the impersonal Brahman obtain only suffering and not Brahman. Brahma says, Tesham aso kleshala eva sishyate nanyadyata stula nishavagatinam. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. Srimad-Bhagavatam 10.14.4. So that example about husking the grain, husking wheat. If you beat some empty husk, you're not going to get any grain. So it's compared to someone who speculates. We try to understand the Lord simply by the power of our own mind, then all we get is trouble. We'll never understand. The important thing is bhakti. Without bhakti, we can never understand the Lord. You can understand Brahman, but not bhakti. You cannot understand Bhagavan. So here you can see a chart comparing the two paths, the impersonalist and the personalist. For the impersonalist, their goal is Brahman. And for the devotee, their goal is Bhagavan. So you can see the comparison. We have the impersonalist and the personalist. So on one hand you have nirguna, on the other side saguna. For the impersonalists, they're seeing the Lord without any qualities. But the devotees, they see the Lord all with form, with qualities. Such a difference. For the impersonalists, for those people who are Brahmagyanis, they know the Lord is inconceivable. And we agree, the Lord is inconceivable. We say, however, he possesses inconceivable potencies. They simply say, oh, the Brahman is inconceivable. But we say the Lord has energies which are inconceivable, or his potencies are inconceivable. And then for the impersonalists, the absolute truth is all-pervading. And we say, yes, the absolute truth is all-pervading by energies. And as the supersoul, the absolute truth is all-pervading. They simply say the absolute truth is all-pervading, but they don't say what it is. They don't say where he is or what he is. But we say, no, there's a supersoul. And then number 4, for the impersonalists, the absolute truth is unchanging, fixed, and immovable. So we agree to that. Number 5, you cannot perceive any opulence because of the lack of activity. But we say, no, the Lord has 6 opulences. And that is stated by Parasara Muni. He gives the definition of Bhagavan, that the Lord has 6 opulences. But the impersonalists will simply say, no, he's without qualities, without activities, impersonal. So no qualities, no personality. Number 6, there's a risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the end. But in the path of bhakti, success is guaranteed. Nothing is lost. A little advancement made saves us from the greatest danger. But for the impersonalists, they just simply, it's all just a big risk for them. There's nothing at the end. Number 7, the impersonalists, they may realize the eternal and knowledgeable aspect of the ongoing feature, but that is only partial realization of the absolute truth. Complete realization of the absolute truth is not just simply only the aspect of eternity and knowledge, but there's also bliss. And that's very important. So in order to experience that bliss potency, one has to take the path of the Vaishnavas, the personal path, and understand the Lord in his personal features. Okay, so then here's another chart also comparing similar ways. The impersonalists, they meditate on the formless, but the devotee meditates on the deity. The impersonalists, they say the absolute truth is beyond the senses. We say, yes, beyond the senses, but the Lord can reveal himself if he wants. He can reveal himself. In the impersonalist path, they must understand what is Brahman. They have to go through the Upanishads. But in the personal path, we just simply have to become devotees. We have to render devotional service. The path of Gyan, very laborious, it takes a long time, very difficult, and rarely successful. But the path of Bhakti is natural and easy, not troublesome. Miseries are ended by our relationship with Krishna. But for the impersonalists, they have so many troubles, so much trouble. So the path of Gyan depends a lot on the individual's own endeavor, how much he actually tries to achieve realization of the Absolute. In devotional service, however, Krishna delivers the devotee. When Krishna sees the devotee make an honest endeavor, then Krishna becomes pleased and he'll do everything to help him. Okay, so here's a chart showing some of the different qualities of the impersonalist. You can see the different headings: nature, mentality and attitude, philosophy, action, result. So the results in this chapter, we're dealing with the devotee who's taken shelter of Krishna. And the result of taking shelter, you can see text number 6 and 7. The Lord comes to deliver the devotee. Someone can read text 6 and 7 for us?
Text 6. Ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanasya matparaha ananneneva yogenma dhyayanto pasate. Text 7. Tesha maham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshita chetasam. Translation. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
Yes. Eshamaham samudarta mrityu samsara sagarat. So this is Krishna's statement here, that Krishna says, I will deliver my devotees from the ocean of birth and death. Of course, we have to qualify ourselves. The qualification is described. We should be devoted to Krishna fully, give up all activities unto Krishna, devoted to Krishna without deviation, engaged in service with devotion to Krishna, always meditating upon Him and fixing our minds upon Him. In this way, then Krishna will come and deliver us. You can see in the illustration, the devotees there in the ocean of birth and death, and Lord Krishna comes riding on the back of Garuda to pick him out of that ocean. So devotees like that, we're depending on Krishna to deliver us. It's not by our own efforts, but it's by the grace of the Lord. The Lord can come and pick us up out of that ocean of material existence. Yeah, someone please read Prabhupada's purport.
Bhagavad Gita purport 12.67. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by His great mercy, comes at once riding on his bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from this material existence. One simply has to practice this easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in the devotional service.
Yes. Okay. How many people are here tonight?
Maharaj, 12.
12? All right. So maybe how will we do it? We can have groups of what, 3 or 4?
Yes, Maharaj, I think 3 will be better.
Okay. So here's the question. Consider Srila Prabhupada's example of dependency on Krishna. How did he exemplify this? We want some examples how Prabhupada depended on Krishna. Ask students to identify with concrete examples. And then Srila Prabhupada's emphasis was on surrender to the instructions of the parampara and on confidence in Krishna looking after our welfare. Identify examples of how we may sometimes fail to follow this. Okay? So have a discussion on these 2 points and see what you can come up with.
Yes, Maharaj. I'll create the breakout rooms. So everyone would have received the invite. Please join the rooms. Maharaj, shall I invite the devotees back?
Yes?
Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
Mataji.
I was with Rukmini Mataji, and suddenly my laptop just kind of, I don't know why, it just conked off. It's not working. So many phones se abhi kiya hai. Is she there? I was in group 3.
Yes, Mataji. I can see that she's still there, but the breakout room will close in another 20 seconds.
Oh,
So devotees, yeah.
I couldn't speak to her. My laptop is gone. I don't know why. Something is wrong with it. Anyways, I'll send her a text. I don't know what happened. I couldn't even speak to her.
Maharaj, devotees are back.
Okay. So, I would like to hear from you. What was your discussion? Did you come up with some examples of Srila Prabhupada?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, so? Well, how does Srila Prabhupada show dependency on Krishna?
The biggest example here, Maharaj, is when Prabhupada surrendered while traveling to the west in Jaladu, where he expresses, that actually saw that the boat was rowed by Krishna and he was taking him across the ocean. So, and then he writes the prayers.
Yes.
I think that's one big example of Prabhupada always relied on Krishna. And then he had no money, but he had faith that Krishna will, help him out in the west. He had faith in the instructions of his Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Saraswati Prabhupada. And
Yeah.
then he had faith in the holy name. And when he started doing chanting, he knew people will get attracted and they will turn into devotees and they will help him carry out his mission.
Okay, good.
And how we feel, Maharaj, I think we never even tried to surrender because we haven't developed that sort of, at least I haven't developed that sort of faith right now that I can, just say, okay, Krishna, do whatever you want. We keep on concocting our own plans and trying to, make our own, situations worse and then trying to crawl out of those situations and making them even worse by not depending on Krishna.
Yes, it's very difficult actually to really depend on Krishna fully.
Yeah, because we keep on thinking, okay, this is the way to escape. Okay, this is how we can resolve it. Okay, this is what we can do. We keep on planning, and surrender never comes into question.
Yes. So of course, sometimes we're forced, some devotees, Prabhupada would put them into that situation where they just really had to surrender and depend on Krishna. And you know that example about Guru Das Prabhu, he was riding with Prabhupada in the train, and they were coming down from somewhere up in North India. They're coming down, going down to another program, and they came through Delhi train station, and some man came into the train station, and he met Prabhupada, and he saw Prabhupada there, and he said to Prabhupada, he said, why don't you send your devotees to Delhi to open a center in Delhi? And the man said, I will arrange accommodation for them. So Prabhupada immediately turned to Guru Das, and he told Guru Das, get down here. And he got Guru Das off the train, and he told him, you can take 4 people with you. And then Prabhupada said, here's 50 rupees. And that was all they had, 50 rupees. And Prabhupada's telling them, he said, I want you to preach to the the government leaders, and you should meet Indira Gandhi and this and that. It was just amazing. But somehow they were able to do it. They were able to do it. You know, they actually met Indira Gandhi. You can see that picture, Indira Gandhi with the devotees, with Yamuna Mataji is there, and Guru Das, and Bhanu Swami is also in that picture. Prabhupada told Bhanu Swami that he should go there with them. He thought it would be good for Indira Gandhi to see a Japanese-bodied person with the devotees, as well as Westerners. So Prabhupada really pushed devotees to surrender and to depend on Krishna. And Prabhupada, not only, he did it, and then he got his disciple. He wanted his disciples also to do it. And just like he sent, people to Pakistan, and somebody to Africa, and somebody to Australia. He didn't just tell them, just sit here in San Francisco and meditate, that you're in charge of the preaching in Australia. Some people do like that. They just meditate in their mind that, I'm going to Australia and I'm going to spread the spiritual movement in Australia. They never actually go, they just meditate on it. But Prabhupada actually sent people there, and he got them to go to Australia, and then people went to Europe, and people went to, as they said, Africa. So Prabhupada was showing people, Prabhupada depended on Krishna, and he expected all of his disciples also to do it. Prabhupada put one devotee in charge of printing the Back to Godhead magazine. And the devotee said, Prabhupada, I don't know anything about publishing. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, that's all right, Krishna will help you. So that was Prabhupada's mood. That he depended on Krishna, and he taught all his disciples, people around him also, that they should also depend on Krishna. Of course, we may sometimes fail. It's not such an easy thing. Okay, any other comments on this?
Yes, Maharaj, I would like to say. So the greatest example of Srila Prabhupada's dependency, as P.S. Satyabhama Mataji said, that when he landed on the land of America from the Jaladuta, so he had written Markine Dharma. So from the Markine Dharma, we can see how he prayed to Lord Krishna, that now it is you only, Krishna, you have brought me here, and you know now better what you want me to do here. So something like that. And moreover, we can also see from Prabhupada's personal life, like how he left his wife behind for tea, and how he moved ahead alone, and how he lost his businesses, how he got so much financial losses in the business. So, but still, he never lost his heart, and he always depended on Krishna. And Maharaj, to the second question, I would like to say that we always, the greatest example I remember from the Parampara system, our Shad Goswamis, I don't remember exactly the name, Rupa Goswami or Sanatan Goswami, they have given us a principle of division of our income. Like 50% of our income should go to Krishna consciousness, then 25% to friends and relatives, and 25% we should keep for our emergencies and all that. But I always fail in doing that. I have never followed that system. Yes, Maharaj, thank you so much.
It's okay, Prabhu, you can do it when you retire. Rupa Goswami did it when he retired. So when you retire, you can always remember to do that then.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Bless me so that I could do it as soon as possible.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we're going ahead. The next step, we'll hear about progressive stages of devotion, verses 8 to 12. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur 12.9, the Lord then speaks of a method to attain the state of remembrance mentioned above. Okay, but we didn't do text 8 yet. That's text number 9. Maybe someone like to read text number 8 from the Bhagavad Gita?
Mayeva mana adatstva mayi buddhim niveshaya sishyasi mayeva ata uddharvam na sanshayah. Translation: just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt.
So that's the highest stage of devotion, right? That's the highest stage. Lord Krishna is starting from the top, and he's describing the topmost level of devotion, to think of Krishna always without a doubt, right? But now coming down a step to number 9, we hear. Yes, someone can read?
The Lord then speaks of a method to attain the state of remembrance mentioned above. If one is unable to remember the Lord with no preparation, repeatedly withdrawing the mind when it goes here and there and fixing the mind on me is called abhyasa. By this method of abhyasa yogena, endeavor to attain me. In common words, this means stop the movement of mind, which like a river cannot be controlled and which gravitates to vulgar sense objects such as taste, and establish the mind's movement in my beautiful form and taste. O Dhananjaya, having conquered many enemies, you have taken much wealth. Now, conquering the mind, you can take the treasure of meditation.
All right, so this is philosophical presentation by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's describing about this abhyasa yoga, how we have to practice with the mind, bringing it back, stopping the movement of the mind, described like a river. But we had to stop a river, not an easy thing. So the mind is like that. We have to take it's a lot of trouble. It's not easy, but it's possible. It's a little exercise. We can just read it over. You're building a Krishna conscious community. You know devotees who contribute land, capital, organization, and labor, but some devotees are reluctant to give them responsibility because they're not following regulative principles of bhakti yoga. What will you do? Is it possible to engage them and simultaneously protect the strict principles of the community? Base your discussion on verses 8 to 12 of the Gita. I think we have to go through the other verses before we try this exercise. Let's continue with the other. Somehow that slide got misplaced. Anyway, here's text number, we heard 8 and 9. Oh, you didn't read 9. We read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's 9, but we didn't read Prabhupada's 9. Right, Maharaji?
Yes, Maharaj.
No, Mataji, you do.
No, I was just saying yes. You please
Yeah.
say, Mataji.
Okay.
Somebody read 9, go ahead.
अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो माम इच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय. Translation: My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me.
All right. So what are the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga? That you have to read in the last paragraph of the purport, Maharaji.
Okay. So I'll read the last paragraph now.
Yeah.
To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow. And one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God. And then he's sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti Yoga, under the rules and regulations with the direction of a spiritual master, will surely bring one to the stage of love of God.
Thank you. Yes. All right. So the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, I like that. It's not just simply for principles, not just simply be a vegetarian and no meat, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, etc. But it's actually practicing Bhakti Yoga, waking up early, doing puja and chanting Hare Krishna and studying Srimad-Bhagavatam. And so by following the principles of Bhakti Yoga, what's the result, Mataji?
It will surely bring one to the stage of love of God.
Okay. We'll come to that perfectional stage of devotional service. But not everybody's able to do that. So, read text number 10.
But Maharaji, can I ask a question? That this you can do, right? That you go to the temple, rise early morning, then go to the temple, pray, do your 16 rounds, finish at around 7:30, and then go back, have prasadam. So, but there is more to it, right?
Oh yeah.
But this purport says that with these rules and regulations, if you do it with the direction of a spiritual master, you can get to the stage of love of God.
Yes. Well, but you have to do them every morning. Now, if you spend 4 hours every morning going to the temple, you're going to go to the temple 4:30 Mongol Arti. You're going to be there till about 9 o'clock in the morning, because Bhagavatam class will be about 8 to 9 usually. And so then you go 4:30 in the morning, you're there till 9, that's 4.5 hours. So you spend 4.5 hours every morning and engaged in sadhana bhakti. That it has a powerful effect on you. If you do that for several years, then we will really feel it. We will transform. The mind will be transformed. And certainly the days, although you're working, you have to go to work, you have a job or something, whatever, or maybe you're a housewife, whatever you're doing, but still, because you had the morning program, it will have a very powerful antiseptic effect on the mind.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Now, not everybody's able to do that, like I said. How many people can do that, and for how long can they do it? To practice Bhakti Yoga is not such an easy thing. To get people every morning to go to the temple and spend 4.5 hours there in the temple every morning, how many people could do that? Maybe they do it at home. They could do it at home as well, of course, but still they have to spend a similar amount of time chanting and the same activities. Whatever we do in the temple, you can do them at home, but you have to do the same activities. You have to chant, you have to read Srimad-Bhagavatam, offer worship to Krishna. Now, if someone's not able to do that, then what should they do? And you have to read text number 10.
Okay. Abhyase apya samartho asi mat karma parmo bhava mad artham api karmani kurvena siddhim vapsayasi. Translation. if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Hare Krishna.
All right. So karma yoga is there. Work for Krishna. What do you have to do? What does that mean? Work for Krishna.
Maharaj, taking up activities that please Krishna.
Okay. Yes.
Or it says that whatever we do, we put Krishna at the center and then work. I mean, whatever we do, think about him and then do our duties.
Yes. But it's not just think about him.
I mean, yeah.
But we have to also offer the results to Krishna, right? Karma yoga is offering the results. You have to be detached from the results.
Maharaj, can we take here example of Srila Prabhupada? That although I'm understanding that it's a karma yoga, but still it is written that working for me. Srila Prabhupada was 24/7 dedicatedly working for Krishna only. Krishna said him to go and preach, and for this purpose he came. Till 70 he was writing the books and preparing her himself, and then he went, and for 12 years he globed the world more than 14 times or around 15 times, and he was continuously just by taking 2 hours sleep, and in sleeping only, like he was in as Srila Prabhupada disciples tells that he was chanting. So he was working for him. Can we take Srila Prabhupada example here by working for Krishna?
Well, Srila Prabhupada is an example working in devotion for Krishna. Right? It's not just simply karma yoga, but Prabhupada is an example of devotion to Krishna. Always remembering Krishna, never forgetting him. You know, Prabhupada is an example of at the highest level of devotion.
But this verse says karma yoga.
Well, certainly Prabhupada, but we didn't know. Karma yoga is also included within Bhakti yoga, right? It's just like we say, you have $100, you also have $50. So if you're doing Bhakti yoga, you're also a karma yogi, you're also a jnana yogi, you're also a dhyana yogi. It's all there within Bhakti yoga because you're on the perfect level of Bhakti yoga. So he's also a karma yogi, but he's more than a karma yogi, he's a Bhakti yogi.
So Prabhupada example is not fit here, no Maharaj?
Huh?
Prabhupada example is not fit here then?
It's not
fit here.
Well, he's not on that level of devotion. He's on the topmost level of devotion. Lord Krishna is saying, if you cannot do Bhakti yoga, then do this. You know, we cannot say, well, Prabhupada couldn't do Bhakti yoga, so he did that. No. Right?
Thank you.
But some people, they're not able to do like Bhakti yoga, the Bhakti yoga. They're devotees, but they're just not able to fully devote themselves in that way. That every day chanting and every day studying Bhagavatam and all this. And, well, okay, they're unsteady in their practice. And so maybe they can do karma yoga. They should do karma yoga. They have attachments and they're working in the material world. Maybe they're doing business, or maybe they've got a good job making money, something like that. And they want to have money, they need money to live. And so they're working, they're earning money. They should give some of their earnings for the service of the Krishna consciousness movement. That is karma yoga. That they sacrifice some of the results of their work for the service of Krishna. And Prabhupada explains like that in the purport. He said that to run a society, to run the temple, they need funds. And so the congregation, they should support the temple. They should contribute to the maintenance of the temple from their hard work which they do and the earnings which they achieve. They should contribute something towards the temple. And that is karma yoga.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Maharaj.
And nowadays, of course, you know, we have a lot of people on that level. We have how many people do we have on the topmost level who can always remember Krishna? Not too many. And how many people do we have who can just simply fully devote themselves to bhakti even? It's rare that you get people who are really committed to bhakti and who are really strict in the practice.
Maharaj, can I ask one thing?
Yeah?
Maharaj, please forgive me. I'm a little confused, but I really want to ask. Maharaj, does it mean like performing bhakti yoga, one is really not able to do other activities like working or something? Because as I'm just, every time I'm just thinking like, if somebody is doing the materialistic work, if somebody is doing job or something, of course, he contributes to the temple, he does a lot for the temple, but does it mean that he is not devoted 100% to the bhakti yoga? And one who has who tried and still trying to fully surrender and performing just devotional activities, that considered into bhakti yoga? Are these two things right, Maharaj, or please suggest?
Well, we have to consider each individual, you know, what is their commitment, in what way are the, you know, the person who's he may be having a job and so on, okay, he can do that, he could still be a devotee, he could still be doing bhakti yoga, but it's not so easy in that situation. It's not so easy to go off the whole day working with people who are not devotees and working in an atmosphere which is very materialistic, and to be with people who are not devotees and to have to pass a lot of time working with them and discussing things with them. It makes it difficult to remember Krishna all the time. Right? You work in a job, yeah, you can do it, but it's not easy to fully fix your mind on Krishna. But the principles of bhakti yoga can be followed. The morning program, like I say, you spend time, solid time every morning to do the morning program, then that is bhakti yoga. Even you go out to work all day, it's okay. You know, you can do that. Just like devotees in the temple, they are also doing the morning program. Then they go out, maybe go out for book distribution, or sometimes we have a restaurant, devotees working in the restaurant. Different things which we're doing. Sometimes we go to college programs, we go to schools and give classes. And so devotees in the temple, they're also engaged in many different activities. Somebody's a manager and somebody's in charge of he has to write the accounts for the temple. Devotees are all doing so many different things. Does it mean just because they're in the temple, they're doing bhakti yoga? Prabhupada said, well, I was not in the temple. Prabhupada said, I didn't live in the temple. I lived at home. I had my family. So, you can be in a family, but Prabhupada explains there's grihastas and there's grihamedis. Now the grihamedi, he's always thinking about money. He's always thinking, I need more money. I need to improve my home. I need a new car. He's always thinking like that. But the devotee who is the grihasta, he's thinking about Krishna. So it's a question of where your mind is at, what level of consciousness you have. Someone's always thinking about Krishna. He's not thinking about his sense gratification. So that is bhakti yoga. Right?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj ji, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Related to the same point. Maharaji, I think so many times that brahmacharis and sannyasis have always an upper hand over the grastas in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their services and all that. So isn't it?
No, not always true. There are many householders who have very good knowledge, just as good as sannyasis or as good as brahmacharis, can be even better. There are very qualified householders who are very knowledgeable, very well
Maharaj,
read.
lots of hours of householders are spent in their earning activities. So that's why I asked this question.
Yes, they may be, but there are householders who also are very committed to Krishna consciousness.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
There are many householders. We do have a good number of householders. And we see in the Mahajans, there's many householders there. They're Mahajans. But you can't say they're grihastas, because the grihastas are not advanced as the sannyasis. Maharaj Ambarish was a grihasta. He was much more advanced than than Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni was a sannyasi, but Maharaj Ambarish was more advanced than Durvasa Muni. Right?
But Maharaj, they were all exalted personalities. In today's times, we cannot expect such exaltation in us and in today's times, isn't it?
Well,
like even following in the footsteps of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is also doesn't seem to be very possible.
of course, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a great soul, but still the example is there, and we can try to follow in the footsteps. Of course, we won't be equal to them, but we can follow the example and follow in their footsteps. The mood can be there, or we can't expect to be on their level, but it's nice to follow. We get the example. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he set up the Namhata preaching, the marketplace of the holy name. He designed it all and said how it should be. And he did it also. He went out and preached too. So we can follow the example of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, going out and preaching and doing Sankirtan. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also. They went out for preaching. They did Sankirtan, did Nagar Sankirtan. They put on programs and festivals, and they talked. They explained about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mission. They explained the qualification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the identity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we can do all of these things also.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much.
All right, so number 10 rather said do karma yoga. We had text number 8 was the highest stage of perfection. 9 was to do bhakti yoga, and 10 was to do karma yoga. And then we come to 11. So number 11, if you're unable to do this, then taking shelter of the process of offering all your actions to me, madhyogam ashrita, give up all the results of your actions as described in the first 6 chapters, Karma Yoga. The meaning is this: in the first 6 chapters, the Lord spoke of Niskam Karma Yoga offered to the Lord, a method to attain liberation. In the second 6 chapters, the Lord spoke of Bhakti Yoga, the method of gaining the Lord Himself. Bhakti Yoga has 2 types: being fixed in Bhakti through internal senses, and being fixed in Bhakti through external senses. Okay, so something a little unusual. The first type of Bhakti, using internal senses, has 3 subcategories: smarana, anika, and manana, atmika. mentioned in verse 8, using mind and intellect. And for those who desire remembrance but cannot do continual remembrance, practice of the above, called Abhyasa Rupa, verse number 9. These three are difficult for a person with poor intelligence and easy to perform for one with good intellect and no offenses. The second type, relying on external senses, is composed of hearing and chanting. Verse number 10. It is easy to perform for everyone. Those who are qualified for performing both methods, internal and external, are most outstanding. This was stated in the second 6 chapters. Those who cannot do this, who do not have faith in fixing the senses of the Lord, those who are qualified for Nishkam Karma offered to the Lord, as mentioned in the first 6 chapters of the Gita, are in an inferior position to the devotees. Verse number 11. All right, so verse number 11. Read the translation from Prabhupada's book.
For 11,
Yes?
if, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated.
Try to act giving up all the results of your work and try to be self-situated. So, what should they do? What do they have to do? They should give charity, is it? Can you read the purport, Maharaji?
Yeah, okay. Not from the screen, right? From the book.
Yes, right, from the book, right.
Yeah. It may be that one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members or so many other difficulties. For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions of punya or special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus, one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness gives charity to some hospital or some other social institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. That is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually. And in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, etc., may be accepted so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 18.46, we find it is stated, Yataha pravartitir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes. All right. So text number That's text number 12 you were reading?
That was 11.
That was 11, right? So 11 was describing to give charity, somehow to get detached from the results of your work. Even you can't give it to Krishna consciousness, you give it in charity, you do some charity work. It's not spiritual, but it helps you to become detached, and it can lead to spiritual activities. So Krishna is recommending like that because he understands sometimes you just can't do it. You can't give to Krishna. People are not favorable, the family are against or something, some problem. So give to some other cause and it will allow you to become detached. All right? So then going ahead, text number 12. In this verse, the Lord makes clear the successive superiority of abhyas, manana, and smarana, meditation, mentioned previously. Better than practice is fixing the intelligence on me, jnanam or mananam. By performing practice alone, it is difficult to achieve meditation. By performing mamana easily, one can come to meditation. Therefore, by this distinction, it is concluded that meditation, mai mama abhyasa or smarana, is better than gyan. Why? So from meditation, one becomes devoid of desire for fruits of sakama karma in the form of swarg, or the fruits of niskam karma in the form of liberation. Even though swarg and liberation are attained without his endeavor, the devotee becomes indifferent to them. Before the devotee reaches steady meditation, when he has not yet attained rati or bhava, he has just a desire to give up liberation. But when he becomes fixed in meditation, at the bhava stage, he becomes disgusted with moksha. He takes liberation as insignificant. That meditation is the cause for indifference to moksha. So here you can see the diagram, the different stages of devotion. So on the topmost level, you have the devotee who is totally absorbed in Krishna, always thinks of Krishna within himself, within his mind, never forgets Krishna at any moment. And then just down from that, one level down, you have the devotee who is doing bhakti yoga. He's practicing the principles of bhakti yoga, and he will develop the desire to come to the Lord. Then below that is working for Krishna. And we say the result will come to the stage of devotional service. Working for Krishna will bring us to the stage that we want to do devotion for Krishna. And on the bottom, you have renunciation, cultivation of knowledge, meditation. And the result of these things is purification, peace of mind, and gradual elevation. So different stages.
Maharaji, could you please read the topmost two again? Actually, they are not readable.
Yeah, I'm not able to read it myself.
It says
Maharaj,
mind
can I?
fixed on, yeah, sorry, Mataji.
No, please read, Mataji, please read.
Mind fixed on Krishna. Actually, it's a challenge reading white on yellow, but yeah. Mind fixed on Krishna, result will live in relationship with Krishna. Right?
Yeah, I have to change the color of that type. Yeah. I've got another diagram there in another place I could show you. This one not very good. Maybe I should close this one. Let's see. There's another one. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay. So you can see the different levels of devotional service. We want to come to the topmost level. Best way is to, if we can't do bhakti yoga, if we can't follow the principles of sadhana bhakti, then we have to do this stage. We have to do karma yoga, working for Krishna. And one who's working on this level, sadhana bhakti, he's also working for Krishna. He's also doing these other things. He's also practicing renunciation and meditation and so on. It's all there within sadhana bhakti. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, attaining the stage of love of God. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow. And one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-Bhagavatam from pure devotees. We read this from text number 9, describing how we practice bhakti yoga, right? Okay, we're going to go ahead to the last section here, qualities that endear one to Krishna. So here we see some of the different qualities which are mentioned. Nirahankara means I am Krishna's servant. Shami means excuse. A devotee is especially attacked by a devotee is attacked by the demons, because Prahlad Maharaj was a devotee. Even his father was an enemy. What to speak of others? So a devotee will have to meet so many enemies. We have the example of the life of Lord Jesus Christ. He was being killed by others, but he said to excuse them. God, they do not know what they're doing. That is the devotee's position. Shami means always excusing. We have to learn this. Yeah? Someone can read Santushta?
So if Krishna desires that I should suffer like this, why should I bother? Let me suffer. There are many verses to support this. Tatya anukampa susukshamano bhunjane vat krit. When a devotee is put into distress, he thinks it is God's kindness that he is giving me little pain, some hurt, although I should have suffered more.
Right? You think like that when you're suffering?
Yes, Maharaj.
You do? Good. Okay. Dhrita Nischaya means, what does it mean? Oh,
Means he believes in the word of Krishna. A devotee believes that I have nothing to do except to surrender to Krishna. Then all my business is done. Shall I read that?
yeah, go ahead.
Arpita Mano Buddhir. Mind and intelligence are always focused on the lotus feet of Krishna. You come to the temple, observe Radha and Krishna, and always think of him. That is the highest, topmost yoga system. Therefore, deity worship is very important. If you are engaged in deity worship, you always see the form of Radha and Krishna and Radharani. And if you always think of Krishna and Radharani within your heart, then you become the topmost yogi. It's from lecture Bhagavad Gita 12.13.14, Bombay 1974.
Okay. Oh, we did this, right? Okay. Anapeksha, neutral, just see. When I went to America, I went with how many rupees?
Just
40
40 rupees.
So Sumati Murariji gave me a ticket and I had only 40 rupees. That 40 rupees could not be spent there. Then, when I was disembarking, I told the captain, Captain Pandya, I have not a single dollar with me. Will you purchase one set of my books? So, Swamiji, what is your price? $16. He paid me $20. And Prabhupada said, $20, he said, that's just a few hours spending money in America. It's not big money. He said, you can spend $20 very, very quickly. That was the only money he had. And when he came back to India, after some time, he still had that 40 rupees with him. All right? Subha Shubha. Who can read?
When I was in Boston, I was thinking, I have come here. How will they receive me? As soon as I say no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, immediately they will reply, please go home, don't preach here. All right. So for 1 year, there was no success. And I was always going to the shipping company to ask, when does your ship next return? So the manager said, Swamiji, you are always inquiring, but you never go. I said, yes. When I am too frustrated, I come here to ask you. Then I go back again. Let me see 2 months more. It was going like that. Nobody was there with me. Aniketaha. Automatically Aniketaha. There was no place to live, no money. Sannyas means Aniketaha. Now we have 100 temples. But Krishna does not allow me to stay more than 8 days. I am dependent on Krishna. If he allows, Hare Krishna. From Morning Walk, Bombay 1974.
Okay, so these are some of the wonderful qualities of Prabhupada in spreading Krishna consciousness. Devotees have to develop these kind of qualities. We want to be inspired. concluding quote, mind and intelligence are always focused on the lotus feet of Krishna. You come to the temple, observe Radha and Krishna, and always think of him. That is the highest, topmost yoga system. Therefore, deity worship is very important. If you are engaged in deity worship, you always see the forms of Krishna and Radharani. And if you always think of Krishna and Radharani within your heart, then you become the topmost yogi. Right? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right. Any questions here?
Maharajji, when we say deity worship, it could be any form of Krishna, right? Because at home, they say that keeping Krishna, Radha is very difficult to please. So God Nitaya deities can be installed at home. Like I have Tirupati Balaji at home, who has been with us for many years. So it can be any form of Vishnu or Krishna. Am I right?
Yes, yes. Every devotee has, you have your free will, which particular form you're attracted to. Someone may be a devotee of, like Gujarati people, they like very much Srinathji. Srinathji is a popular form often worshipped by the Gujarati people. But there's also other forms of the Lord, like Rukmini Dwarkadish is also there. Some people like to worship Rukmini Dwarkadish, some people like to worship Ranchorji, and you're worshipping Tirupati Balaji. Somebody else may be devotee of Ranganath. Lord Ranganath is there in Trichy, and some people are devotees of Guru Vayu. There's many different forms of the Lord. So Lord Krishna appears in many different forms, different places. He appears in different forms. Yeah?
So that should be fine, right? I mean, there is no preference as such, because when we read the last but one slide, it said that, Radha and Krishna, if you follow, then you remember them.
Yes.
Yeah, so are there even, steps there that, Radha Krishna is the ultimate, and that is something that we should be at home or whenever we are doing deity worship?
Well, Radha and Krishna, yes. I mean, that's what Lord Chaitanya is teaching. If you're following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Lord Chaitanya teaches like that. You see? You have to consider who you're actually following. Just like some people, they may worship Ladu Gopal, Lord in the form of a young boy, They like that form.
Yeah.
Some people, they worship Krishna as a young child. So, if we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we consider Radha and Krishna to be the supreme form. But it's up to every individual, which particular form of the Lord are you going to devote yourself to. Everyone's you may be, as you say, you're worshipping, you have a photo of Tirupati Balaji, right?
Yeah.
So that's a form. Tirupati Balaji is Vishnu. Now, Vishnu is not the supreme form of the Lord. Right?
Yeah.
Who is the supreme form?
Krishna.
Radha and Krishna, right. And so when Lord Chaitanya went to Sri Rangam, for example, Sri Rangam, they also have Vishnu there. And Lord Chaitanya stayed with the Sri Vaishnavas, and he talked to them about the position of Lord Vishnu and the goddess of fortune. And he explained that the goddess of fortune wasn't up to the level of the gopis. She wasn't able to dance in the Rasa Leela. So there was some difference there. Now, a question, when you worship Lord Balaji, how do you consider Lord Balaji? Do you consider Balaji to be Vishnu? Generally, he is Vishnu. Or are you thinking him as being Lord Krishna?
So thinking, I mean, we do Mangal Aarti and we do the full ritual in the morning, but it's the statue of Lord Balaji. I used
Do you
to
have
think,
his consort? Who is his consort?
no, he's alone there. I mean, obviously he has Lakshmi ji and Padmavati on his chest, right?
Okay.
Balaji. So earlier, before I joined Krishna consciousness, I used to think of Vishnu. Vishnu has been very close to me. But after joining Krishna consciousness, then I think Krishna, Radha, everyone, because when we do japa, we think of Krishna and Radha. But
Right.
then, yeah, so it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of, maybe I'm confused that I don't know whether I should think of Vishnu ji or think of Krishna Radha, but primarily now it's thinking is Krishna Radha, even if I'm looking at Lord Balaji.
You see, Lord Chaitanya, he taught to Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta was a devotee. He was devoted to Lord Rama. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that you should worship Lord Krishna and Radha, that they're the supreme form. And so he went home, and the next day he came back and he told Lord Chaitanya, he said, I have to give up my life. He said, you've asked me to worship Radha and Krishna and not to worship Sita and Rama. He said, I cannot do it. He said, my heart is attached to Sita and Ram. I just want to worship them. So Lord Chaitanya told him, he said, then it's all right. He said, you are Hanuman. He said, you must be Hanuman. He said, you can continue to worship Sita and Ram. So you don't have to give up. So the same way you have to continue, you have to consider yourself, you know, are you totally committed to the worship of Balaji? You know, we do have Balaji in some ISKCON temples.
Yeah.
Like,
ISKCON Pune, Maharaj.
oh, ISKCON Pune has installed Balaji, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So we do have some Balaji deities there. And just like we have also Srinathji in some temples of ISKCON also. So you have to consider yourself, you know, where are you devoted? And how much are you devoted? Are you willing to, you know, maybe you want to keep Balaji there on your wall, but you're going to do more worship of Radha and Krishna?
Maharajji, Balaji is occupying the whole temple. He's the center of the temple. It's not on the wall. It's like a very large wooden statue. So it's a big temple, and he's there inside the temple for 22 years now with us.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's actually a big deity, eh?
Yeah.
Made
Yes.
of made of what? Made of
wood. It's
wood.
teak wood. Yeah.
No. You brought from India, did you?
So Maharajji, he has been, I mean, I have lived in various places. We started in India. From Tirupati Balaji, we got him. And then he came with us to Hong Kong, Singapore, New York, and then finally in UK. So he travels with us wherever we go.
Oh, you brought him with you all the way, so.
Yeah. Always with us for many years now. So it's very difficult to change his place. Yeah.
So, but like I say, you know, you could keep him there, and you can still worship Radha and Krishna.
Yeah. But thank you for your time, Maharajji. Sorry that I took so much of your time.
No, it's okay. I mean, you bring up it's an interesting point. You have you're worshipping Balaji there, so you know we don't just disapprove of that, but at the same time we don't consider that worship of Balaji to be quite on the level of the worship of Radha and Krishna.
Yeah.
But different devotees worship, somebody else is maybe a devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, and someone else may be a devotee of Lord Varaha. You know, there are different kinds of devotee, and Lord Nrsingadev is also Vishnu. You know, he's not like Radha and Krishna. You worship Lord Nrsingadev, then you worship with Lakshmi. Lakshmi is the consort of Lord Nrsingadev. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Can you see this inner life exercise?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so topic, dealing with distress. Ask devotees to identify the possible reasons for being put in a distressing situation. For example, as a nudge from Krishna to push us in a different direction. Ask students to identify Shastric examples. For example, Vidura being insulted by Duryodhana. So Vidura was insulted by Duryodhana and he was thrown out of the palace, but it was a blessing for Vidura, right? It was like a nudge from Krishna to get him out of the palace, and Vidura could go and visit the holy places, and he could get association with many saintly people, and ultimately he met with Uddhava and then Maitreya, and he got a lot of nectar from both of them. So it was apparently, it appeared like a distressing situation, but it was beneficial for him. So sometimes it's like that, you know, we're put into distress and we have problems, but it's actually a blessing for us. So these kind of things happen to devotees. Sometimes it happens, you know, sometimes, you know, you lose your job, and you lost a job, you have no job, and you're really in what to do, and then you think, I can go to the temple, and you go to the temple, and you get caught up in becoming a devotee, you end up becoming a devotee even, like that, and you become committed to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes somebody may have a quarrel with his parents, and the parents may throw you out of the house. Get out of the house, we don't want you here anymore, get out, go out. And you go out of the house and you go to the temple and become a full-time devotee. So that happened to some people. So there are many different distressing situations. Sometimes the boy and girl, they have a problem and they break up, and you know, maybe the boy's in distress or the girl's in distress, and they take shelter of Krishna. And so it's a blessing for them. But what about some Shastric examples? Can you think of any other scriptural examples?
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj Parikshit. When he was in a womb, he was a devotee. He heard, then he had a darshan of Krishna. Whole life he heard about Krishna, and when he came to know that after 7 days he's gonna give up his life, and he left his kingdom like it was nothing for him, though he was an empire of whole world. So he left everything, and what he got the chance to hear Srimad-Bhagavatam continuously, and with full dedication he heard, and from the great sages. So it was like amazing. What about a desire of a devotee? Devotee's desire is to just chant the holy names and hear about Krishna. So he got this great blessing, and for 7 days, 7 nights, without eating, without sleeping, he was hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam.
Yes, very good.
And Maharaj, I am just understanding one more. When Srila Prabhupada left his factory, he did a lot here and there to run his business. But when he lost his factory, He took like, thank you, Krishna. I can understand it's your blessing. And now you want to be totally dedicated in your service for what I have come.
Yes. Right? We say when Krishna is very merciful, he takes everything away from us, right?
Yes. Yes, Maharaj. And I really, as you were asking, I really believe this in this, as I was reading the question also. Krishna knows what is best for us. And he planned every soul's life like this, that somehow or other he may come to me. Everything is actually a blessing. We may think that this is a distress or what and this and that, but actually is a great blessing. We are not able to understand at that moment, but after some time we really realize that it's a Krishna's blessing, because Krishna loves us more and he is more eager to take us back home, back to his abode. He really wants that we should go back to him, because actually we are not this body, we are a spirit soul. So we really, our eternal position is to engage in his service. We were his servants, we are, and we will be till eternity. So it is like Krishna's blessing that uh, he is more eager to take us back. And like in the case of Gopkumar in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Krishna said that you took much time to come back to me. You took much time, and Krishna cried and fainted, and all of the Gopas were like saying that who is this Gopa? For him, Krishna has fainted. So then they said to Gokumar to please chant. So like this.
Also, Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj is an example. He got chastised by his stepmother, and ultimately he has become
Who was that?
Dhruva Maharaj.
Dhruva Maharaj, okay. Yeah. Dhruva Maharaj. Yeah.
Chitraketu Maharaj, he was cursed by Mother Parvati.
Yes.
And then similarly, Narad Muni's mother was bitten by a snake. So he,
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Narada Muni's mother, bitten by a snake. So he lost his mother. Very good. Very nice examples. So we see in the scriptures these different things. Any more?
There's Prahlad Maharaj.
What happened to him?
Like he also was in a distressing situation that his father was trying to kill him.
Oh, right. His father tried to kill him so many ways. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Of course, Prahlad was already in the perfect stage, so it didn't really make any difference to him. It wasn't like Krishna was pushing him, because Prahlad was already perfect, you know. He just tolerated everything. But
Jad Bharat's example will come here.
who?
Jad Bharat.
Jad Bharat?
Yes, Maharaj. Because he fell for a deer, and then he became a little more, serious, and he was realizing his position.
Yeah, after he became a deer, then he was much more careful, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
After being in the deer body, he was more conscious, more careful. Didn't let anything happen to deviate him.
Maharaj, like Kunti Maharani as well, she is asking Vipada Santuta Shashvat that like the misery should come to me again and again so that I can remember.
Oh, Kunti Maharani is asking, let all the miseries come again and again?
Yes, Maharaj, like because she is able to remember Krishna. And once we remember, then we don't have to see.
Yes, right. Yeah, nice. That's a nice example. Good quote, yeah. So our Shastras are full of these things, right? Being put into distressing situations. We have to see them. It's a blessing from Krishna to help us. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any more questions? Any final things we need to cover?
Yes, Maharaj, I want to, Maharaj, I really want to thank you so much for for your association, for having lectures from you. I was really very, when I came to know that in our Bhakti Shastri, we are gonna read Bhakti Yoga from you, all 6 chapters. I was really, it was a lollium for me to be in. And I'm feeling really bad that we will not have your association from tomorrow onwards. It was like so good. I'm feeling very, very bad right now. Very, yes, I'm feeling very sad, very bad. It was really good and it really helped me. Whatever I wanted to, before starting Bhakti Shastri, whatever I wanted to gain, I have got. Thank you so much.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
accept my respectful obeisance unto your lotus feet.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhaivacha patitanam
Thank
pavanebhyo
you, Vaishnav.
Vaishnavibhyo namo namah. So thank you all very much for your association. I'm very happy to have you all every evening to be with you. I will also miss you. I look forward to coming to Rohini and see you all there. And you open
Thank
the
you.
big
You're
time.
most welcome, Maharaj. You're most
Thank
welcome.
you.
Okay.
Maharaj, can I request one thing?
Ah.
Maharaj, actually, his guest Yajnadhanishta Prabhu will take PPTs, but can I have your email ID uh, so we can take PPTs from you,
Yeah, sure.
please? If you can.
Yajnadhanishta has my email. He'll
Oh,
give you.
okay, he already has. Okay, Maharaj, then thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila
Hare
Prabhupada
Krishna
ki
Maharaj.
jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare